The 33 Strategies of War. Robert Greene presents warfare as a metaphor for the challenges of everyday life. He argues that whether in the boardroom, relationships, or politics, conflict is inevitable, and success comes from understanding strategy. The book is divided into 5 parts, each focusing on a different dimension of strategy. Part 1, Self-Directed Warfare. This section stresses mastering oneself before confronting external enemies. The battle within is key. 1. The polarity strategy: declare war on your enemies. Clarity comes from defining enemies. Without opposition, you risk stagnation. Greene shows that enemies give us focus and purpose. For example, Martin Luther King Jr. used racism as his unifying enemy. In business, clearly define your competition or the problem you're solving. Apple framed Microsoft as the enemy to sharpen its brand identity. On a personal level, treating procrastination or negative habits as enemies can bring focus. 2. The guerrilla war of the mind strategy: do not fight the last war. Each conflict is unique, past methods don't always work. Flexibility and innovation matter more than tradition. For example, Napoleon adapted tactics for each battlefield. Don't recycle old methods. A startup that copies 1990s marketing tactics won't survive in a TikTok-driven world. Politicians who rely on outdated campaign strategies, like ignoring social media, lose relevance. 3. The counterbalance strategy: amidst the turmoil of events, do not lose your presence of mind. Staying calm under pressure gives advantage. Emotional reactions make you vulnerable. For example, Ulysses S. Grant's calmness won battles despite overwhelming odds. In crises, calmness signals leadership. During COVID-19, leaders who stayed composed, for example, Jacinda Ardern, built public trust. In personal life, staying calm during arguments prevents escalation. 4. The death ground strategy: create a sense of urgency and desperation. When people feel there's no retreat, they fight harder. Forcing yourself onto death ground ignites creativity and resolve. For example, Hernán Cortés burned his ships so his soldiers had no option but to fight. Entrepreneurs often burn their ships by quitting jobs or investing personal savings to push themselves toward success. Personally, setting deadlines or high stakes motivates achievement. Part 2, Organizational, team, warfare. Once inner battles are won, the focus shifts to structuring groups effectively. 5. The command and control strategy: avoid the snare of groupthink. Unity is vital, but too much conformity breeds failure. A leader must foster debate, not blind obedience. For example, the Bay of Pigs invasion failed partly due to groupthink. In corporate settings, encourage dissent. Companies like Amazon use disagree and commit to avoid blind consensus. In families or friendships, seek honest opinions rather than forced harmony. 6. The controlled chaos strategy: segment your forces. Break large forces into smaller, flexible units. This prevents collapse under pressure. For example, Genghis Khan's armies, organized into units of 10, were highly adaptable. Break teams into smaller agile groups. Tech firms like Google let small teams work independently, ensuring innovation. 7. The decentralization strategy: transform your war into a crusade. Inspire followers by tying your cause to something larger than themselves. For example, Alexander the Great framed his conquests as spreading Greek civilization. Leaders inspire by tying work to a higher cause. Tesla frames its mission as saving the planet, not just selling cars, motivating employees and attracting customers. Part 3, Defensive warfare. Defense is as crucial as attack, protecting position while waiting for opportunities. 8. The pick your battles strategy: choose your battles wisely. Fighting every conflict drains resources. Select battles that matter most. For example, Mao Zedong avoided direct confrontations with superior forces, retreating when necessary. At work, avoid arguing over minor issues, save energy for promotions, raises, or strategic decisions. In politics, leaders avoid unwinnable wars, for example, Biden ending the Afghanistan war to focus on China. 9. The counterattack strategy, turn the tables. Let opponents strike first, then exploit their weakness. For example, Hannibal lured Romans into traps by allowing them early advantage. In debates, let critics speak first, then dismantle their argument using their own words. Businesses often let competitors overinvest in trends, like Meta with the metaverse, before pivoting. 10. The non-engagement strategy, create a threatening presence. Sometimes the best fight is no fight. Power lies in deterrence. For example, nuclear deterrence during the Cold War. In negotiations, sometimes just showing strength prevents conflict. For example, a lawyer's reputation alone can deter lawsuits. 11. The feigned madness strategy, trade space for time. Confuse enemies by seeming weak, irrational, or distracted, while secretly preparing. Example, General Washington's strategic retreats during the American Revolution. In business downturns, some companies deliberately downsize to survive until better conditions arise. Personally, stepping back from conflict gives time to regroup. 12. The passive aggression strategy, lose battles but win the war. Accept temporary losses for long-term victory. Example, Russia's scorched earth tactics against Napoleon in 1812. A startup may accept early financial losses to build long-term dominance, Amazon in the 2000s. Personally, sacrificing ego in arguments preserves relationships. 13. The strategic withdrawal strategy, know how to end things. Don't cling to failing ventures. Retreat gracefully to preserve resources for the future. Example, Churchill withdrawing from Gallipoli. Companies divest from failing projects, like Google shutting down Google+. Individuals must learn when to walk away from toxic relationships. Part 4, Offensive Warfare. Attacking strategies that seize initiative and disrupt the enemy. 14. The Blitzkrieg strategy, overwhelm resistance with speed and suddenness. Strike hard and fast before the enemy can react. Example, Hitler's Blitzkrieg in Poland and France. Startups launching unexpected features, like OpenAI's sudden release of ChatGPT in 2022, disrupt slower competitors. Personally, surprising an opponent in debate or job interviews can create advantage. 15. The center of gravity strategy, control the dynamic. Focus on the enemy's core weakness rather than peripheral targets. Example, Alexander attacking Darius' command post directly. In negotiations, shift focus to your strengths. Steve Jobs emphasized Apple's design rather than competing on price with Microsoft. 16. The divide and conquer strategy, occupy the center. Divide opponents so they cannot unite. Example, British colonial strategy in India. In politics, parties often move toward the center to divide opposition. In workplaces, being the connector between departments makes you indispensable. 17. The annihilation strategy, expose and attack your opponent's Achilles heel. Identify the most vulnerable point and destroy it. Example, Sherman's march to the sea cut through the South supply lines. Netflix attacked Blockbuster's late fee model, the company's weak point, and destroyed it. 18. The double-edged strategy, envelop the enemy. Attack from multiple directions to overwhelm. Example, Hannibal at the Battle of Cannae. Businesses surround competitors by dominating multiple channels, Amazon dominates retail, cloud, logistics. 19. The flanking strategy, maneuver them into weakness. Avoid direct confrontation, strike from unexpected angles. Example, Erwin Rommel's desert warfare tactics. Small brands often succeed by focusing on niches ignored by big corporations. Example, Dollar Shave Club undercut Gillette by offering direct-to-consumer subscription razors. 20. The encirclement strategy, take the line of least expectation. Surround enemies psychologically or physically. Example, Mongols encircled and annihilated larger forces. TikTok grew by targeting teenagers first, rather than competing with Facebook for adults. 21. The chain reaction strategy, exploit the chaos. One decisive move can destabilize everything. Example, Lenin exploiting Russia's 1917 unrest. Opportunistic entrepreneurs thrive during economic crises. Airbnb exploded during the 2008 recession. Part 5, Unconventional, Dirty, Warfare. Focuses on deception, psychological tactics, and irregular methods. 22. The false flag strategy, weave a web of deception. Hide true intentions behind misleading appearances. Example, Trojan horse. In business, companies often mislead competitors with false product leaks. Personally, appearing weaker than you are can lead others to underestimate you. 23. The misperception strategy, take the moral high ground. Appear virtuous while pursuing ruthless goals. Example, Gandhi's nonviolence disarmed opponents morally. Brands use ethical marketing, fair trade, eco-friendly, to win trust. Politicians frame opponents as immoral to win popular support. 24. The preemptive strike strategy, deny them their comfort zone. Attack before the opponent is ready. Example, Israel's Six-Day War. In career terms, address potential weaknesses in an interview before being asked. Militarily, Israel's Six-Day War strategy applies to market launches, striking before rivals are ready. 25. The chain of command strategy, occupy the heights. Dominate from a position of superiority, psychological or physical. Example, holding high ground in battle. Tech giants maintain dominance through data control, Google with search, Apple with ecosystems. The heights are industry bottlenecks. 26. The guerrilla war strategy, sow uncertainty and confusion. Strike unpredictably and fade away. Example, Viet Cong during Vietnam War. Small businesses survive by being unpredictable, like indie creators using memes to beat corporations on social media. 27. The passive deception strategy, seem to work for the interests of others. Pretend to serve others while advancing your own interests. Example, Talleyrand, French diplomat. Diplomats and business negotiators often frame deals as mutually beneficial while gaining disproportionate advantage. 28. The counterbalance of forces strategy, give your rivals enough rope to hang themselves. Allow enemies' arrogance to be their undoing. Example, Athens overextending in the Peloponnesian War. Allow arrogant competitors to overexpand, like WeWork, which collapsed after unchecked growth. 29. The strategic alliance strategy, join forces to divide the enemy. Form temporary alliances to weaken greater foes. Example, U.S. alliance with Stalin in Second World War. Spotify partnered with Facebook to survive early competition. Personally, partnering with peers at work increases leverage. 30. The inner front strategy, take the inside track. Infiltrate and undermine from within. Example, espionage operations in the Cold War. Office politics often involves insiders subtly shifting decisions from within rather than open confrontation. 31. The diplomatic war strategy, alter the playing field. Shift conditions so the opponent cannot operate effectively. Example, U.S. containment strategy against the Soviet Union. Companies shift industries by changing rules. Uber altered the taxi business by redefining itself as ride-sharing. 32. The information strategy, take the line of least resistance. Use intelligence and propaganda to shape perceptions. Example, British use of fake invasion plans, Operation Mincemeat, Second World War. Businesses manipulate perception with PR and advertising. Apple's minimalist marketing makes products feel premium. Personally, controlling what information about you circulates online is modern warfare. 33. The unpredictability strategy, seem unpredictable and irregular. Instill fear and hesitation by being erratic. Example, Genghis Khan's unpredictability kept enemies in constant anxiety. Elon Musk's unpredictability makes him harder for competitors to counter. Personally, varying routines prevents manipulation. Key themes across the book include the following. Conflict is inevitable in human life. The greatest victories are psychological and strategic, not always physical. Flexibility, deception, and discipline separate winners from losers. Greene stresses psychological warfare as more powerful than brute force. Historical examples range from Sun Tzu and Napoleon to guerrilla fighters and modern leaders. Key modern lessons. Business, compete by targeting weaknesses, staying flexible, and shaping perception. Politics, use moral framing, alliances, and control of information. Personal life, learn when to fight, when to retreat, and how to use psychology instead of brute force. The 33 Strategies of War provides a toolkit for navigating conflict in all areas of life. Greene blends history, psychology, and philosophy into practical lessons. While some strategies are aggressive or manipulative, the book's main point is to understand the nature of conflict so you can choose how to act, whether to attack, defend, or avoid altogether. Thank you for watching.